here with the Panthers, and give me your raw reaction to the Panthers as we put up the first graphic.
Man, raw reaction on the Panthers. So the thing is, right here, I'm just going to try to set the table for you. Because I know that this is your team. We have talked about all offseason how we have certain teams that, you know, you want to see them make that next step. And I know the Carolina Panthers are yours. Yeah. And I love a lot of the moves that they made in the offseason, too. Let me start by saying I am a huge Sam Darnold believer. I have seen the flash of what he has in New York at times. Some of the throws, I've said it so many times, so I'm blue in the face, that some of the throws, if you were to blur out the quarterback, you would be like, oh, the sidearm power, you know, throwing a deep post route, sidearm down the middle, that's Pat Mahomes type stuff. Yeah. That's what he does. He does have, I would call it elite arm talent. He does. And I'm hoping that with the security blanket of an offense around him, a very good offensive line. They've made a lot of moves to bolster that up. McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall had a hell of a fucking preseason game. Yes, it was awesome to see. I think it's going to be a good year. Defensively, we're going to need to see some key pieces step up in the secondary. J.C. Horn is my guy, though, and I really think he's going to be able to fill that. And when it comes to a front, they're not. I was about to say front seven. I think they're lacking in their linebacker department. But that defensive line, Brian Burns is a sneaky pick for a defensive player of the year.
Yeah,
I know it'll shock you, but when you go look at all these betting websites out there, that you can find Brian Burns, and yeah, the way that he's able to get pressure, he is jab step, all of it. I've seen so much film on him lately, and that's a guy that I'm looking to break out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Florida Stater, love that you give props to him. I love that you mentioned defense, and let's start with defense. You know, just obviously we'll get to everything else. They spend the least amount of money in the NFL on the defense this year, right? So it's just young, and it's not really their fault. They spent every single draft pick last year on the defense, a lot of draft picks this year on the defense. They have bolstered this defense with young guys, and usually when you say, oh, they're spending the least amount on the defense in the NFL, that like would scare you. But it doesn't mean, like, Brian Burns, he's going to get a payday, and it kind of confirms, like, if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you probably can look at the roster and look at how it's going. Brian Burns, they're going to be able to afford him. Just looking, you know, just from, you know, mile, whatever, I can't talk. I had a saying in my head, and then I messed it up in my head, so I can't talk. Yeah, so that's got to be exciting, you know, if you're a fan there. But overall, you know, you look at the cornerbacks, like you said, yeah, they bolstered them up. They also brought in, you know, A.J. Bouye, who was off a bad year with the Broncos, but you know what? I've seen at least one player. I've seen at least one veteran who came off a really bad year do well the next year, and that was Rhodes, another Florida Stater who came from the Vikings, had a terrible year with the Vikings, went to the Colts last year and did really well. AJ Bouye, it wasn't that long ago that he was a part of the best duo of corners in the league, in my opinion, when he was paired up with Ramsey. Like, that was just a ridiculously good duo. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this team, though, it does run through the offense, and yeah, I'm really high on Terrace Marshall. I think he's going to do well. I have a video. If you haven't watched it, go watch the video where I talk about how he's going to fit in that offense and what I expect. You hit the nail on the head. I don't really need to repeat what you said there with Sam Darnold. I absolutely agree. I think he is. I think he is going to be a big part of this offense. And really, that's where I want to go next, is the quarterback, but more like looking at it from a managerial sense of, okay, they bring in Bridgewater. They spent a good bit of money on Bridgewater. Like, they're paying him to play in Denver
the guys
right now.
Gave him the shot. Yeah,
they gave him a good piece of money, and then they trade for Sam Darnold. You send all those picks away, sign his 5th-year option, and I guarantee you, if it doesn't work out after 1 year, they'll be gone. They are aggressively attacking the quarterback position every year. Obviously, there was all the rumors that they wanted to trade up. They couldn't get a deal done there to trade up to get a guy that I think they felt like they really needed. Obviously, you know, they didn't feel like Fields was the guy because he was available to them. They had Sam Darnold at this point too. But I really believe, like, if they really liked Fields, they might have gotten him.
I'm totally with you on that. They had a guy in this class
they wanted.
Yeah. I mean, that, you know, Darnold, while both of us believe in him, he was not the immediate fix, because when draft night came around, it was, regardless of Darnold or whatnot, I mean, I still thought they were going to take Fields. You know, I thought that there was a chance. I don't know if it was Wilson. I don't know what they were expecting to happen draft night, but they had a guy that they were willing to make that move for.
And then when they traded for Darnold, they're accepting like, okay, that guy's not going to be there. I do think it was Wilson, actually. I really do. I think that was probably the goal. So I'm excited about that. You know, you get this owner who's coming from the Steelers organization, and the Steelers have been pretty consistent at quarterback there. I mean, as long as I can remember. I mean, you go from Bradshaw to whoever was after Bradshaw to Roethlisberger. I mean, you know, obviously I'm sure I'm missing something there, but I mean, having Roethlisberger as your cornerstone has really, you know, was a big part of the Steelers' success for all those years, and then everything else builds around it. And I think that's
able to
knowing
find that quarterback that can last you for you know, some of those other guys like Big Ben 15 plus, but 10 to 15 year run.
Yeah.
That is like unprecedented. That is what the Panthers are doing. And that's why I think that they're primed and ready with how they've built themselves off of this. Like you said, they picked up Darnold's 5th-year option. If it doesn't happen this go around, they're going to keep aggressively pursuing. I think we're seeing all the teams in the NFL constantly this turnover, if it's not the guy, they're not going to hold on to the guy. They're going to move on. They're going to keep taking their shots, and everybody out there has to find a 1 through 10 quarterback. Yeah. And there's a lot of guys, 11, 12, 13, 14, that should belong in that top 10 typically, but it's just such a competitive field right now out there when it comes to just overall quarterback play. Yeah. And everyone's trying to get the best one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's across the board. If you don't have a top 10, your fan base wants a better one. And I think we've seen enough of.
That's the reason why you don't win. Exactly. Is the quarterback.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And when you look at the quarterback, I do think with Sam Darnold, we're going to get more plays down the field. You know, if you look at Bridgewater, look, I was never really in on Bridgewater. I remember doing a film study video early on last season and watching him. I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm good. I believed that was all he had, and he was a backup after watching like one game of film. I think it was versus the Raiders or something. I was out. But 28% of the Panthers' pass attempts traveled just 10 yards, right? Or, you know, traveled beyond 10 yards. Like that number needs to be higher. And I think with Sam Darnold, it will be. I think overall, Sam Darnold is a huge improvement. I think they got better with their wide receivers. I really do. As much as I like Curtis Samuel, I do think Terrace Marshall will be an upgrade at that position as a third wide receiver. They already have 2 really good ones. So, yeah, I think this offense is going to be I think this offense is going to be really good. I don't think there's any other way to say it. You mentioned at the beginning, like, I'm really high on this team. I am. I think, you know, my projection does not match how high I am. Looking at now, I have them at 9-8. I wanted to give them 12, but I had to like cut it down a little bit and be realistic and be somewhat like even killed.
They're shooting your shot, but then there's also
I had to be even killed a little bit.
In the current Super Bowl champion Buccaneers
exactly.
division, the Saints haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So and that was certainly something I had to look at. But there are 2 teams that I was coming into this season that didn't make the playoffs that I felt had a really good chance to surprise some people and be really good. After I've actually done research on both of them now for today. We're recording we're talking about 8 teams today. One of them I feel even better about, and the other I feel a lot worse about. And the Panthers I feel even better about. Just everything that I've seen, I feel like they are going the right direction. My only issue right now with their offense specifically is their left tackle, right? They move on from Akun or he retires, whatever happened there, he's gone. And then, you don't, I don't know what to expect there. Cam Irving is injured. You have Dennis Daly. You have Tyler Moton, who might move over. A lot. But he's a guard, and they're trying to move him over to tackle. So you don't really know what's going to happen there. So, like, one hole that I really see, like, as an issue, again, that's manageable. You said overall their offensive line is good, and it is. Overall, it is good. I do have a question about that one specific position. Let's move on. Let's talk about their free agency here, because I really liked what they did in free agency. They grabbed a combination of really good starters, solid starters, and really high level capable backups. Cam Irving, the guy that grabbed. I think that's a good pick. Even if he does end up being your backup swing tackle, I think that's a pretty solid guy. Hassan Reddick, I loved bringing him in. Brought him in for a 1-year deal. I wanted the Dolphins to give him big money. I believed it after last year that he made the position move to what his natural position was out of college, and he dominated last year. And I mean, it's not his fault. He's playing out of position for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was. Just high level, competent starters. Pat Elfine is a big hit. They really did did spend some money on that offensive line. I think that helps. And their losses, minimal. Curtis Samuel's the biggest one, but I think they replaced that in the draft. You know, nobody else here that I'm really losing a whole lot of sleep over. Where are you at with this?
No, I think that they did a good job trying to prep up this offensive line. That's what kept making me think that there was another quarterback move coming behind the curtain overall. But now, Sam Darnold's the guy. It's a fresh breath for him, I'm sure, to get away from that just hostile, toxic New York media, especially having to be a team in New York and have some poor play where it's been. Because, there are times where it is Sam Darnold's, own doing when it comes to, some of the...
Yeah, he wasn't perfect. I don't think you'd be able to argue that.
By any means, but I definitely think that he was not given the right tools in the first place to do that. And I think it's just misfortunate because I know we're going to talk about the Jets in a later pod, but I do think that the Jets now are starting to get that infrastructure down to have a Sam Darnold type quarterback. It just sucks because you see it so many times where the guy has tried and tried so many as a quarterback where it was just nothing he could do all by himself. And then by the time the team gets good for him, ready to go, it reminds me going back to Carolina Panthers of a Cam Newton. They had a Cam Newton prime where there was a lot of other pieces lacking around him. And Cam Newton's physical ability alone was enough to propel some of these average pieces to become good and great pieces at that. And then by the time that I think the Carolina Panthers finally got their infrastructure right, Cam's window had closed.
Yeah, no, I really do agree with that. And, we always talk about the draft as a lottery pick, right? Like you're just getting lottery tickets. It's kind of the same for the players, too, when you think about it. I mean, Sam Darnold was drafted in the exact same spot that the Colts were. The Colts traded back. Yeah. The lottery of it all is, imagine if the Colts had a heads up that they weren't sure what's his name wanted.
If there was a chance that they knew Luck was.
Yeah, imagine if they had a little bit of a head start on that bombshell. The Colts probably don't trade back, and they probably take Sam Darnold, and then Sam Darnold automatically is in a significantly better spot. He never has to meet Adam Gase. I mean, there's some good things that could have gone. Like and then
Adam Gase the other side, is a big one too.
On the other side, imagine if he was with the Browns. I really believe. Look how good the Browns are. I really believe he would have a different career. I think he has the talent. I think it was at least similar talent coming out. Obviously, they liked Baker more, but I think it was similar. I think there's some good things there. Yeah, it is a crapshoot for both sides.
Let's go back to that draft since you mentioned that. And Sam Darnold was the better prospect coming out in a lot of people's minds over Baker.
He was the favorite.
I really
throughout
liked
the
Baker,
process.
but exactly the Baker pick was jaw dropping. Yep. It was shocking to see that happen.
We had a heads up, and I remember making a bet with you, and I was like, "This is bullshit. They're trying to smoke screen." I thought it was all crap. There's no way they're going to take Sam Darnold over Baker. I liked Baker. I certainly thought he deserved to be a first round pick. Thought he even deserved to be top 10. Did not expect him to be number 1 over a Sam Darnold type of thing. And granted, hindsight's 2020. The whole point being
is that Sam Darnold had the raw tools, and even beyond that, almost they were. Early on, I remember a few guys comparing him to some of the greats of greats coming out whenever it came to overall scouting about how good he was. I hope that he can just keep those tools and use them around because there's no excuses now.
So let me ask you this because I'm going back to the offseason at a glance questions, and I wrote all these questions, and I thought this was an interesting one. I'd love to hear your take. Joe Brady, is he a head coach in 2022 if this offense does well?
Yeah. I think the offense. I think the offense will do well, and it's only going to bolster up that resume even more. Yeah. I thought Brady would maybe not due for the jump at that point after that LSU season, but I have seen less qualified guys get the job. Yeah. Where I felt like, yes, I still wouldn't have wanted him to be a head coach, but I would have understood. Okay, this is how he got the job.
I do think I completely agree. I think he was in one of those situations. He probably could have gone and been the head coach of the Texans of stuff.
Yes,
like the Texans were looking for anybody, right? They probably could have gone. Like if Joe Brady wanted to, he probably could have gotten that job. Nobody wanted that job though. I agree. Joe Brady's in the right spot, and with this offense, with the weapons he has, if he is what I kind of think he is, I do think he's a special play caller and deserves to be be in that conversation for a young offensive mind type of guy. He can kind of bide his time and wait for the right opportunity. It might be this year, it might be the year after. But
I hope it's the year after when Mike Zimmer gets fired.
Exactly. I have some hot takes there.
That'd be cool.
But that's my thing is like, man, if he's looking at the open positions next year, he might be in a position where he can just be like, I'll wait another year. I'm good. Like this is a good team.
Almost pull a Josh McDaniels,
exactly.
Which we don't even know. We don't even know if that's a thing in his head. He might be saying just to take take the keys where he's at.
I think at this point he's the successor to Belichick.
Got to be because of the jobs that he's passed up.
Exactly. Yeah. He's passed up on some solid jobs. So I thought that was interesting. I think this team can take the next step. I think their young roster is very good. I do think they win the playoffs. I do think they go to the playoffs. At 9-8, maybe my record prediction doesn't account for that, but I think they're better than my record prediction suggests. Yeah. I think they're a really good football team. I think they were, they were unlucky with fumbles, 28th in the NFL. They were unlucky with opponents' field goals, 31st in the NFL above expected. The opponents made every single field goal except for 2 last year. That doesn't really happen. Like things like that do kind of go back to the median a little bit, and like they were the other part of it, and something that we haven't even mentioned yet. They were in 11 one-score games. They won 3 of them, and a lot of that is Bridgewater.
Competitive last year.
Yeah, they were consistently right on the cusp. And hey, yeah, I think that's a really good place to be when you're a young football team. And the other part, let's pull up the teams they have to play next year and their predicted schedule strength. It's average. It is like there's nothing special there, but it's not a bad schedule at all. But the first 3 weeks, they should come out of the first 3 weeks going 2-3 or 2-1. Excuse me. Confidence.
Well, I would go ahead and say look at the first 5 weeks, and I would say 3-2.
Yeah,
I think that they're 3-2,
and that's confidence. That is building up your confidence for a young team. I think that's really important. I think I always talk about having an easy schedule early and how important I think that is for momentum and for these guys. And I think it's even more so for a young football team. And this is a very young defense, especially, but a young football team in general.
No, I think they're going to have to get this momentum going early because they close out the year with the Bucks in 3 weeks. They play the Bucks, so yeah. I think it's week what
that
would be
sucks.
16, and they have 17 and 18. Yeah, so
that's going to be weird.
Bills, Bucks, Saints, Bucks. That's brutal.
Yeah, that's not easy. Let's close it out. Let's quickly talk about their draft. Got J.C. Horn in the first. I know you really liked that.
Yeah.
Terrace Marshall in the second was certainly a guy that I thought. I mean, they did a really good job with that, getting Terrace Marshall late in the second. That was a really good draft. Tommy Tremble. I'm not as big on Chuba Hubbard, but to be the backup, I don't really have an issue with it behind Christian McCaffrey, and they did need that. Obviously, Mike Davis going to. Division rival over there. I love Davion Nixon in the fifth. He's like one of those guys, and he has been flashing in camp. I was listening to a Carolina fan podcast, and they were talking about him. That's their draft. Any guys you really want to touch on? Or
mine was Deante Browner and Shai Smith. That 6th round, I think they have one of the best. I'm serious. Shai Smith is one of my favorite early prospects coming out of South Carolina. Had some injury concerns early on, but he is electric. He pops. I know it's going to be hard to find a realm to get him working early on into this thing. Same for Deante Browner. Deante Browner is a huge physical big body boy out of Alabama.
Yeah, get an Alabama offensive lineman in the 6th.
You can't go wrong.
I'll take it. Yeah, even if he doesn't have the great measurables or whatever. Last thing I do want to talk about with their draft and something that was interesting to me, I'm just going to put on the board their trades, right? I thought they did a really, really good job of moving down and collecting capital. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a team like the Carolina Panthers. Getting 3 picks for 1 in the 4th round from the Titans, getting 3 picks for 1 in the 3rd round from the Texans,
amazing deal from
getting 2 picks, in the trade for the Eagles, consistently traded down twice in the 2nd and still landing Terrace Marshall. That is insane. Just collecting so many picks. Imagine if you said, "Oh, you can get Terrace Marshall, Tommy Tremble, Shai Smith." And another pick that ended up being traded all for your 2nd round pick. Like that's ridiculous amount of value. Last little thing, we don't usually talk about draft day trades on this pod, but I thought it was interesting, and I just want to speak to the intelligence of the staff. I really think their GM and what they're doing up there from a managerial standpoint is really, really high level stuff, and I think they're showing you how to rebuild. I think they're doing a really good job of that.
Yeah, if you're trying to rebuild and find diamonds in the rough, you need as many shots at those diamonds as you can take.
Especially if you're rebuilding without all the picks. Like the Dolphins are showing you how to rebuild if you have a shit ton of capital. But the Panthers are showing you how to rebuild if you didn't have a left tackle get traded for 7 million picks.
Exactly.
So I think that's really good. I think that's a